So I heard that in corporate America, if you want to start a business, you need to have something like this for the employees. I'm going to make a video on my main channel, and you're not going to be able to tell the difference between some corporations and some actual kindergartens. This is a very rundown park. Uh, Reason being that there's a bigger park next to this one, and everyone goes there. Very few people come here, and by the garbage we can figure out what they're doing. But let's get a little bit away from the noise. Look at that Romanian graffiti. I love Christie. Wow, no anarchist symbols, nothing. Very weird. Okay, and record. Let me just put this away from my face because it's weird. Don't have a selfie stick, but I do have a hand. Arm's length recording, right? I had this conversation with a friend of mine. Let's put it like this. And he was telling me that, oh, look, V, did you know that there is this initiative to have an armchair into Dungeons and Dragons, and they want Wizards of the Coast to put it in their official manual. And I told him, it's like, yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, there are superheroes that use wheelchairs. I mean, I guess Professor Xavier comes to mind, right? You can have like this wizard or this sorcerer that travels around on a wheelchair, I suppose. And he was really upset. He was upset that I didn't contradict him, because he wanted me to say like, no, it's a bad idea, and then he wanted to, I guess, start arguing with me. Like, this is what these people want. They want conflict. They strive off of conflict. Like, for them, conflict is more important than air. If you don't give them conflict, they get really upset about it, you know? How can they be a hero if they don't have a villain? Like, they need the bad guy in order to fight. So anyway, then I do the stupid thing and open my mouth. And I say, I mean, you have to check in with the rest of the party, because, they might have different sets of adventures in mind. Like, for example, you can't be the barbarian on a wheelchair. That just looks ridiculous. That goes into comedy, but like, that can work. But still, you need the other party members to be okay with it. Like, if the party wants an epic adventure where they're going off and they're fighting minotaurs and dragons and they're climbing mountains and all of that, maybe they don't want someone that role plays as a character in a wheelchair. And that's where he exploded. It's like, oh, so bigotry. It's like, why wouldn't they want to know? They need to be forced to want to. Like, they have to want to. And I'm like, okay, as a person that cares about human rights and whatnot, I guess freedom of association goes out the window, right? Secondly, I don't think this guy genuinely plays that much Dungeons and Dragons. Because here's the thing. Dungeons and Dragons is a lot about working together with other people and being considerate about other people. It's a game that teaches you that you're not the most important shit there. There's other people at the table, and you have to make sure that everyone is having fun, not just you. Otherwise, people won't play with you. And imagine if I go into an adventure where people want to go slay the dragon, and I want to create a character that's torso guy. He was a wizard, and one day one of his fellow students snapped and brought a wand of magic missile at the university and starting zapping people. It was a massacre. And he got hit, but he managed to survive. He's got no arms, he's got no legs, he's just like a torso now. His charisma isn't pretty high because a magic missile hit him in the head as well. I mean, that could be an interesting character, don't get me wrong. It would be an interesting way to play the game like that. But who would want to play with you? You know, like it wouldn't be in the type of adventure where you're climbing mountains and saving dragons. So, but like this guy, no, like he is like, no, no, no. If you have like the right reasons, you should force yourself on others. And it's very interesting because again, like Dungeons and Dragons is a game about people cooperating and working together and making compromises. Why would you want a person that is not willing to compromise at the table? Why would you want someone that doesn't respect your wishes at all? It's like, I don't care what you want to do. This is my character. You're going to play with him. It's like you're somehow chained. You're chained to the game table and you can't get up and leave because if you do, you're a bigot. And then they wonder why these people, these activists, are being shunned away from every single gaming community. Why they need the help of moderators and they need the help of the corporations in order to keep them in. Because normal people don't want to play with them. Like, I wouldn't want to play with someone like that. It doesn't matter what your ideology is. Like, you're not going to force me to play with something that I don't like to play with. But then it's like the reason why they're doing it. Because this is like the most important thing. You know, like, again, a wheelchair in a role-playing game is not something new. If you look at Warhammer, for example, you can take injuries that cause you to have your spine broken, or they can cause you to lose a leg or something. And if you want to keep playing that character, then you have to adapt. And you know, you can actually play a character in a wheelchair. That's fine. Most people usually just discard the character. And the reason is like a lot of people will say, well, it's bigotry. It's like, okay, well, in the real world, the military doesn't recruit people in a wheelchair to do frontline combat. The police force, the firefighters. I didn't hear activism from people in the wheelchair demanding equal representation. It's like, no, they know they're not being taken into frontline combat because people want to protect them. It's like, I don't think the survivability rate is going to be quite high if you decide to go in frontline combat as the torso guy, you know, the guy with no arms and no legs. But anyway, right. My point was, why do they do this? Because it's very important, right? They're thinking they're somehow changing the world. They're making the world a better place. It's not that they want representation. They're thinking that people in a wheelchair are having a struggle in order to find representation in Dungeons and Dragons. And up till now, they couldn't win this struggle. But thankfully now, bourgeoisie white guy number 7,542 is going to push this on the Twitter. And other bourgeoisie white guys are going to push this onto Games Workshop or onto whatever company, you know, Wizards of the Coast in this case. And they're going to change the rules. And finally, the life of people in wheelchairs are going to be transformed for the better. And they're going to get a standing ovation. In reality, if you spend like 10 seconds to talk with a person in a wheelchair, like I did, because I met a couple at the hospital, they will tell you that in their fantasy, like if they were to be able to play any type of character they want, if they were to, you know, push themselves in a story and it's complete fantasy, would you believe if I were to say that the thing they want is to walk? Like, why would someone in a wheelchair who has been given the ability to let his imagination run wild and play whatever he wants choose to also play someone in a wheelchair? Like, I'm a chubby guy myself. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'm a little bit plump. Why would I want to play as a plump guy in my fantasy session? Like, what do you guys not understand what you're doing? Like, did you ever speak with a person in a wheelchair? It's you know, it's really interesting. This is what happens when you do activism for a community that you don't even interview, you don't even poll, you don't even survey, you don't even ask, like, how many of you actually want this? Again, I'm not saying that it can't make for an interesting session. You know, like, if you want to play a gnome that's even short, like let's say he's got stunted growth, so even for a gnome he's small, and he's in a wheelchair and he's got like this battle axe and he's going to be the group tank, go for it. You know, like that's the beauty of board games. Like, no one has to tell you what you can or can't play, except the other people at the table. And, you know, if you manage to find a group of people that are willing to have this adventure, then go for it. But, like, this is not what they want. No. They want to show that they're so progressive that they're going to bend the company to their will, and the company is going to do it for them. And then they're going to get a standing ovation for it. Because this is what everything that it comes down to is getting applauded by other people. I don't know. I think we can fix the world and we can fix gaming if everyone goes to a social justice activist on Twitter and constantly congratulates him, like constantly gives him hearts, constantly tells him what a great person he is, constantly tells him it's like, oh my God, you're so wonderful. You're God's gift to mankind. And maybe like they won't need to come up with this ridiculous concepts in order to try to get some ovation that they desperately deserve. Let me know what you think, especially about this style of video, and I'll be talking with you guys in the comment section.